Dr. Mehler, coming at you one last time with some more bad news. I'm going to share my screen. This is going to be my farewell, my epilogue here. And an epilogue, if you don't know, is the part of the book, a section at the end of the book that serves as a comment or a conclusion to what's happened. And so this is my epilogue for this semester. I'm going to try to comment and sum up what I see as kind of the sum of the semester. First, I want to start off with a little bit of wonderful news that I got. This organization, Just Detention International, was created in 1980. Actually, 1978 was when we started working on it, but by Russell Smith and Barry Mehler, who started this organization, People Organized to Stop Rape of Imprisoned Persons. And as I say here, you know, despite its ungainly name, the organization took on a life of its own and became Stop Prison Rape, and then finally Just Detention, an international organization opposed to sexual abuse in prisons, and these days in various immigrant detention centers as well. I can't take credit for the great success of this organization, but I take tremendous pleasure. And now that I discover that JDI is being considered for a Nobel Prize for December 2022, which is when I will be retiring, I can't imagine a better way to retire. And I just wish them the best. And I hope that they get the Nobel. It'll just be a thrill. So first off, I wanted to thank all of you for participating. And the more you participated, the more I want to thank you. All of you understand how difficult these past 2 years have been. And for me, the loss of my ability to just show up in class and be myself and has been a big loss. I mean, I used to have a lot of fun in the classroom. I used to do my own commercials for Camel cigarettes. I loved reminding you that when I was your age, more doctors smoked Camels than any other cigarette. But the idea was to get you to think about, how do we know the things that we think we know? I mean, when I was your age, I knew that smoking was good for you. And all of my life, I've been told that marijuana is bad for you. And now marijuana is a medicine and tobacco is bad. And how do we get to these ideas that are so firmly planted into our heads? For example, most of my business students said that they thought that business is basically good. Yes, there are a few bad apples, but a lot of the best things in life that come from us are brought to us by corporations and that we love. And my argument has been that the modern corporation is the dominant institution of our age and is primarily responsible for driving the collapse of our civilization and the extinction of life on this planet. So I don't think it's a few bad apples. I think that it's something more fundamental than that, a lot like the Camel cigarettes that I thought were great to smoke, but were actually nothing but an invitation to emphysema and cancer. The corporations were selling death, and I thought that it was great because more doctors smoked Camels, so it must be good for you. But I thought that because the business culture that I lived in made huge profits from selling death, they sold death in the form of cigarettes, but they also sold death in the form of weapons. And President Eisenhower warned us of the dangers of the military-industrial complex. And here's a little chart of 2021 billions of dollars in 2020, the highest countries' military expenditures. So the United States spend 778 in 2020. We spent $778 billion on our military, and that was more than China, India, Russia, United Kingdom, Saudi Arabia, Germany, France, Japan, South Korea, Italy, Australia, Canada, Israel, and Brazil all together. So, you know, we are this awesomely militarily powerful country, but the Taliban just kicked our asses and, you know, and sent us fleeing from Afghanistan. We lost in Vietnam, and the Russians are now threatening Ukraine, and China is threatening Taiwan, both allies of the United States. And, you know, it just, I don't understand what we're getting for all that money. We're certainly not getting the respect around the world that, we have the most powerful military on the planet. So I thought I would leave you with a few final remarks about the book that I assigned to most of my classes, which is this little book, The Collapse of Western Civilization, and then and this book, which has really changed the way I view things, which is this is the Sixth Extinction. And so I'll make a few comments about this. To summarize, this little book, the Collapse of Western Civilization, it was commissioned by the National Academy of Sciences. The book was written by two internationally renowned historians of science. And the idea of the book was to write something short and easy to understand that could explain how desperate the situation is and why we need to pay attention to climate and make fundamental changes to our civilization, something that was obviously not very easy to do. Basically, you should understand there's no debate among the scientists that, they all agree that we're heading for collapse and extinction. The problem has been getting the word out. And so this little book was an attempt, a failed attempt to as every other attempt has been, to get global recognition that we had to address the problems of fossil fuel consumption, which we just have failed to address. We are still subsidizing fossil fuel production. We're still burning more fossil fuels than ever before. We haven't begun to do anything about that. And so we've decided not to address the problem. So it basically, the book was a failure. But telling people that, so the idea of the book is that, you have these historians 1,000 years in the future looking back at the collapse of our civilization from a world that is way, way more poorer than the world we live in. For example, there are no human beings in Africa because everybody in Africa and Australia and New Zealand, those places didn't make it. There's a small pockets of humans that have survived. They're trying to say, realistically, what's coming at us, even if we survive, we are going to be much diminished. Life on this planet is going to be much diminished. It is going to be extremely difficult for us to survive. I don't think we're going to survive. I think that part of it is fantasy. In fact, even the very dismal hope that they hold out is a fantasy, and there won't be any historians 1,000 years from now to look back at our civilization. And so that brings me to Elizabeth Colbert's book, The Sixth Extinction. So I would also recommend her. She has one other book this is a brand new book. This is her latest book. This is called Under a White Sky, The Nature of the Future. The Nature of the Future. If you want to know what the future is going to look like, this is the book that you want to read. So there have been 5 extinctions, mass extinctions on this planet in the last several hundreds of millions of years. And each one of these mass extinction events have caused the death of most of the living things on the planet. Most of the species go extinct. Most of the individual living things die. And there's very little life left on the planet, but something survives and it starts all over again. We've had 5 of those. We are now in the midst of the 6th mass extinction event. Nothing is going to stop it. And really what's happening is that species are going extinct all around us all the time. Some of them you're aware of, you see pictures of the polar bear, of the whales, whatever, and you want to save an individual creature, but there's 1 million species right now in imminent danger of extinction. And basically, what you have is Noah's flood without Noah. There's a mass extinction event. Most of the food on the planet dies. No more meat, no more grains, no more fish. And basically, we're really close to that now. You'll see that in the book, the Western collapse of Western civilization, they predict that in 2023, there's this massive heat wave that reduces food production, and there's massive starvation, which leads to all kinds of collapse. It might not happen in 2023. It could happen in 2022. It could happen in 2024. But sooner or later, it's going to happen. I mean, our climate is becoming extremely unstable, and an unstable climate is not conducive to the production of food. And when you're in the middle of a mass extinction event where your fishes are all going extinct and your animals are going extinct, you're really in a lot of trouble. But what I wanted to point out is that we are no longer in control. Even things like, with the pandemic, we're 2 years now into the pandemic and there's no end in sight. So here's Spectrum Hospital talking about, every single bed and every single ICU bed and every single ventilator, they're all being taken. And these are the unvaccinated. The unvaccinated people are clogging up our healthcare system, so that if God forbid you got sick for something, anything, not related to COVID, and you needed to be in an intensive care unit, you're out of luck because they're all taken up. So our healthcare system is really clogged down by a pandemic that could be controlled with a vaccination, but people refuse to be vaccinated. So we're not even in control where we have something that could mitigate the problems. We can't even do that. And now Omicron threatens to completely overwhelm our hospitals. This is going to be bad. Our educational systems, so the healthcare system is in terrible shape, but our educational systems are also in just absolutely horrible shape. And I've put a couple of recent articles from Bridge Magazine here, where the majority, more than 2,500 Michigan's classrooms were led by long-term substitutes who weren't certified teachers, right? That was a stunning 10-fold increase in the last 5 years that threatens to really destroy our public school system. So education is gone, healthcare is gone, our infrastructures are already collapsing, prices are rising. I predict that things are going to be extremely difficult for you, for your life. So with that, I bid you adieu, and I wish you a happy new year. Carpe diem, seize the day. And there we go.